Welcome the Lord's chosen. They laughed when you cried, but now life is laughing, and they're the punchline. It's wild how tables turn without making a sound. One day, they're mocking your struggle, and the next, they're fighting invisible battles that look eerily familiar. Life doesn't text before it delivers karma. It just shows up like an uninvited guest with a clipboard full of receipts. And let's be honest, it has perfect timing. Psychologists have found that people who intentionally hurt others often experience what's called empathic dissonance, a psychological backlash where the very emotions they suppressed in you come roaring back at them. That's not magic. That's mathematics of the soul. Energy, just like physics, doesn't disappear. It transforms and transfers. Every tear you shed, it's now rain in their storm. And the best part, you didn't have to lift a finger. You just healed, leveled up, and walked away looking expensive in peace. Meanwhile, the same people who called you too sensitive are now somewhere praying for the strength they once mocked you for having. So tonight, let's talk about it. Not from bitterness, but from brutal truth. Because life is tearing them up, and that get back they never saw coming. Oh, it's poetic, it's precise, and honestly, a little bit hilarious when you think about it. Number one, the same pain. They sent out, found its way home. They thought walking away from what they did meant walking away from consequences. But life doesn't lose track like that. Every word they said to break you, every silent moment they used as punishment, every time they chose their ego over empathy, it all made a quiet mark on the universe's ledger. And now, that same energy is cashing out its balance. It's not revenge, it's rhythm. You see, life has this eerie symmetry. It gives people a taste of what they once served. The tears they ignored are now living rent-free in their own eyes. The confusion they planted in you is now sitting at their dinner table every night. They're not being punished, they're being educated. The lesson? You can't make someone bleed and then complain when you get cut by the same blade you swung. What's poetic about it is that it never arrives how they expect. It's not a lightning strike or some loud catastrophe. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's the loss of peace that creeps into their mornings. It's the emptiness that follows every fake laugh. It's the friendships that fall apart for no clear reason, the plans that somehow never work out, the mirror that suddenly doesn't flatter them anymore. Life starts speaking their language back to them, fluently. And you didn't have to clap back, expose them, or prove a thing. Your only job was to survive the storm they built for you. Once you stood up again, life handled the rest. It's funny how that works. They thought your silence meant weakness, not realizing silence is what the universe uses to set the stage for justice. Now, they're in a season where everything they did to you echoes louder than ever, and they can't escape it because it's not coming from you anymore. It's coming from life itself. That's not karma in a dramatic sense. That's just the sound of balance returning home. Number two, life isn't punishing them. It's translating what they did to you. People love to act confused when life starts echoing their own behavior back at them. They call it bad luck, spiritual attack, or someone praying against them. But deep down, it's not punishment. It's translation. Life is fluent in truth. It simply takes what they dished out and speaks it back to them in a language they finally understand. When they played with your emotions, they didn't see your tears as real. They called you dramatic. They laughed when you struggled to make sense of it all. Now life has flipped the script. They're dealing with people who drain them, ignore their worth, or twist their kindness into weakness. And suddenly all those silly feelings they mocked in you are now visiting them in HD clarity. That's not cruelty, that's comprehension. The universe doesn't do payback, it gives perspective. You see, when someone wrongs a pure soul, the lesson isn't you hurt someone, it's this is what it feels like to be you. It's empathy through experience. Life lets them sit in the same emotions they caused, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Because some people only learn when the story hurts them personally. Words don't teach them, consequences do. What makes it powerful is that the same patience you had with them is what life now has with them. It won't rush the lesson. It'll let them lose sleep over what they once brushed off. It'll let their calls go unanswered the way they once ignored yours. It'll let them taste the silence they forced on you. Every moment that once broke you is now replaying. Only this time, they're the main character. Life isn't trying to destroy them. It's decoding their actions in real time. It's not cruelty, it's calibration. Because what they never understood with words, they're now learning through their own reflection. And that's the most fluent translation there is. Number 3, they mocked your healing season until they needed one. They were the first to roll their eyes when you were struggling. Every tear you shed, every moment you tried to process, they labeled it weakness. They mocked your attempts to grow, laughed at your efforts to find peace, and treated your healing as a joke. At the time, it stung, but you carried on anyway, knowing your journey wasn't for their applause. And now, the universe has a funny way of handing roles back, exactly where they belong. Suddenly, life has put them in a season they can't laugh their way through. The things they ignored, the struggles they trivialized, are now the same things pressing down on them. The strength they made fun of in you, your patience, your boundaries, your persistence, is now the kind of strength they desperately need. But here's the kicker. You already have it. You've moved past the chaos while they're stuck fumbling, realizing for the first time what it takes to endure without shortcuts. The irony isn't subtle. They scoffed at your late-night reflections, your quiet resilience, and your refusal to lower your standards. Yet life doesn't make exceptions for people who refuse to respect growth. Now, they are forced to confront their own shortcomings in ways they never imagined. That laughter they threw at your process, it bounces back with a heavy echo, reminding them they underestimated what it means to truly face oneself. And while they're scrambling, you're calm. You didn't need to expose them, beg for recognition, or prove yourself. You simply healed and kept walking. Life did the rest, showing them that real transformation can't be mocked, delayed, or stolen. It just exists quietly in its own power, while the rest flounder in the shadow of what they once laughed at. The lesson is undeniable. Growth is invisible to those who refuse it, but undeniable to everyone else. And the moment they finally grasp that, it's already too late. You're far ahead, untouched and thriving. A living proof that healing isn't about them, it's about you. Number 4, they didn't believe in consequences until they became one. For the longest time, they moved through life like there were no aftershocks. They did what they wanted, said what they pleased, and treated people like emotions were disposable. They wore arrogance like armor, convinced they could outrun accountability. To them, consequences were just stories people told to make themselves feel better after being hurt. But that illusion only lasts until reality decides it's time for a personal introduction. Now life has put them front and center in a lesson they can't skip. Every manipulation they thought was clever, every lie they justified, every boundary they disrespected, it all came back wearing their own face. Their actions have become mirrors, reflecting every move they once brushed off. They used to believe they could bury truth under charm or excuses, but the ground doesn't hide what it can't hold. The cracks are showing, and this time, there's no one else to blame. It's poetic, really. The very chaos they created for others has become their daily reality. The same confusion they caused now greets them every morning. The betrayals they normalized now sting when it's their turn to feel them. Life didn't have to lift a hand. It just let their own behavior grow roots and wrap around them. That's the thing about energy. It always returns home. Not as a punishment, but as a reminder that the game they played was never one-sided. And deep down, they know it. You can see it in their eyes. That uneasy awareness that what's happening to them isn't random. It's not bad luck, it's recognition. They've become the very thing they ran from, a walking consequence. Not because someone cursed them, but because truth always circles back to its source. Now their silence isn't peace, it's the weight of understanding. They didn't believe in consequences when they hurt you. But now they're living proof that ignoring the cost doesn't erase the bill, it just delays the payment. Number 5. The get back isn't karma, it's clarity. People love to call it karma, when someone who hurt you starts falling apart. But that's not always what's happening. Sometimes it's just clarity doing its quiet work. You didn't curse them, hex them, or wish them harm. You simply walked away and took your energy with you. The same energy they thought they could drain endlessly, the same peace they mistook for passivity, was actually their lifeline. When you detached, everything false around them began to collapse because their power was never real. It was borrowed. That's the thing most people never understand about the chosen ones. You weren't just in their life. You were the balance holding it together. Your forgiveness gave them grace. Your patience shielded them from chaos. Your love softened their karma. The moment you stepped back, all that protection you carried for them went with you. And what's left behind? Exposure. They're not being punished. They're just seeing their life without your covering for the first time. This isn't vengeance. It's spiritual physics. When truth enters the room, illusions crumble. And when you decided to stop explaining yourself and started protecting your peace, their mask couldn't survive the light anymore. The loss of you wasn't emotional. It was energetic. You were their calm in the storm, and now they're learning how loud the wind gets without you in it. The get back isn't you watching them struggle with satisfaction. It's realizing they were never as strong as they pretended to be. Their confidence was your energy reflected. Their peace was your influence mirrored. Once that connection broke, the truth started showing up, not to hurt them, but to reveal how much of their stability depended on the light they once took for granted. So no, it's not karma. It's clarity. The kind that doesn't announce itself, doesn't scream, doesn't gloat. It just exposes what's real, strips away what's fake, and reminds everyone that peace is power, and you were the plug all along. Number 6, their comfort was built on your confusion. They were never strong, they just got comfortable watching you question your own worth. Their confidence didn't come from self-belief, it came from your uncertainty. Every time you second-guessed yourself, they felt more in control. Every time you apologized for things you didn't do, they felt validated. They fed off your hesitation because as long as you were unsure, they could pretend they were right. Their ego was built like a house of cards, and your confusion was the air holding it together. That's how manipulators thrive, not by being powerful, but by making sure you don't realize you are. They studied your insecurities like a manual, learning which words to twist and which moments to exploit. And for a while it worked. You kept shrinking, trying to keep the peace, trying not to lose them, thinking if you just did better, they'd finally treat you right. But what you didn't see was that your silence and your overthinking were feeding their illusion of superiority. They didn't love you. They loved the control they had over how you saw yourself. Then something shifted. You got tired. Not angry, not bitter, just tired. You started listening to your own voice again. You stopped explaining yourself to people who never listened. You realized peace doesn't come from being understood by others. It comes from understanding yourself. And the moment that clarity hit, everything they built began to crumble. Without your self-doubt to lean on, Their confidence started shaking. They had no idea who they were without someone to dominate emotionally. Now they're uncomfortable, restless, and strangely insecure because your confusion was the battery that powered their ego. When you unplugged, the light went out. That's the part they never expected, that your healing would expose their weakness. Their comfort was never real. It was borrowed from your chaos. And now that you've found your clarity, they're standing in the ruins of their own illusion, realizing the truth they tried to bury was the only thing keeping them alive. Number 7. They're not losing everything. They're meeting themselves. They're not cursed, unlucky, or being punished by some invisible force. They're just finally being introduced to the version of themselves they've been running from. For years, they hid behind charm, excuses, and distractions. They knew how to perform kindness when it suited them, how to mimic empathy when it got them what they wanted. But life has a way of pulling back every layer of pretense until the real face underneath is all that's left to look at. And that's what's happening now. They're not losing everything. They're meeting everything they tried to hide. The relationships that are falling apart, the friends distancing themselves, the opportunities that keep slipping. Those aren't coincidences. That's life clearing the stage. Every disguise they wore while they toyed with you is being stripped away, not out of cruelty, but so they can finally see the truth. The same emptiness they created in others now lives inside them. The masks they wore to look powerful can't hide the guilt anymore. The charm that once opened doors now feels heavy and fake because it was never real to begin with. It's easy to call it bad luck when the lights go out. But the truth is, the spotlight was never theirs. It was borrowed from the people who genuinely cared for them. They drained good souls to fill their void, mistaking attention for love and control for confidence. Now that the energy supply has been cut off, they're face to face with themselves, raw, unfiltered, and terrified. And the irony, this is exactly what they needed. Because the only thing worse than losing everything is realizing you were the reason it fell apart. That kind of truth doesn't hit all at once. It unravels slowly, piece by piece, until denial can't cover it anymore. They called it bad luck. But it's just life doing what it always does, returning people to themselves. And this time, there's no one left to blame, no one to distract, no one to drain. Just them, and the truth they thought they'd never have to meet. Number 8, you were their test, and they failed miserably. You didn't come into their life by accident. You were sent as an opportunity, a chance for them to evolve, to choose truth over games, to meet real love and learn how to handle it with care. But instead of recognizing that blessing, they mishandled it. You came with genuine energy, pure heart, and intentions that asked for nothing but honesty in return. They saw your light and mistook it for weakness. They tested your patience like it was endless, thinking your forgiveness was a guarantee. What they didn't realize was that they weren't testing you. They were being tested through you. Life does that sometimes. It sends people angels dressed as ordinary humans to see what they'll do with them. And when those people respond with manipulation, deceit, or selfishness, the test grades itself. They failed not because you punished them, but because they couldn't rise to the frequency you carried. You didn't come to play games or to compete. You came to heal, to guide, to show them what real connection feels like. And instead of growing with you, they chose control. Instead of matching your energy, they tried to drain it. Now they're wondering why their world feels dimmer. It's because they've been expelled from your frequency. And that's not something you can fake your way back into. You can't earn a second chance with divine energy after you've mocked it. The universe doesn't work like that. It closes the door quietly, but permanently. You were their lesson wrapped in love, and they mistook it for a game. They thought they could manipulate light and not get burned by truth. But when you moved on, they were left standing in their own emptiness, realizing too late that the test was never about you staying. It was about whether they could honor what was sent to help them grow, and they failed miserably, because in trying to control you, they exposed that they were never in control of themselves. Number 9, you were the lesson, not the loss. They keep telling themselves they lost you, but that's not the truth. They didn't just lose a person. They lost access to peace, stability, and divine favor. You were the calm that balanced their chaos, the light that made their darkness bearable, and the shield that quietly absorbed the storms their actions kept attracting. They thought walking away from you was freedom, but what they really walked away from was protection. And that's why everything feels heavier now, because they're carrying what your energy used to soften. When you were around, things seemed to go right for them without explanation. Doors opened, opportunities flowed. They mistook that alignment as their own doing, never realizing it was your energy covering them. Your presence kept them grounded, even when they didn't deserve it. You were their safe space in a world that had already turned its back on them. But instead of gratitude, they chose ego. Instead of cherishing the blessing, they mishandled it, thinking they could play with divine energy and not pay the price. The universe doesn't punish, it corrects. When someone mistreats what was sent to elevate them, life simply takes it away. So now they're left standing in silence, wondering why the peace they once felt has vanished. Their mind is louder, their spirit heavier, and their days longer. That's what happens when grace leaves the room. You weren't just another connection, you were a divine assignment. You entered their life as the lesson, not the loss. You were meant to teach them what genuine love feels like, how loyalty is supposed to look, and what healing energy truly does. They could have learned and evolved, but they chose pride over purpose. And when pride leads, blessings leave. Now they'll keep searching for what you gave so effortlessly, not realizing it wasn't love they lost, it was alignment. Because you were never the tragedy in their story. You were the test of how they'd handle something holy, and they failed, mistaking sacred for simple. Number 10. Life is tearing them apart because they touched what was protected. You weren't ordinary, and deep down, they knew it. There was something about your energy, something sacred, something rare, that couldn't be explained but was felt immediately. You carried peace that calmed storms, strength that comforted, and a kind of presence that shifted the whole atmosphere. You weren't just another chapter in their story, you were a divine assignment. You came to teach, to uplift, to guide, and to show them a level of authenticity that most people only talk about. But instead of honoring that, they tried to exploit it. And that's where everything went wrong. When someone mishandles what's meant to bless them, the universe responds with precision. Not out of revenge, but out of correction. Life has its own way of defending what's sacred. You didn't have to say a word or wish them harm. Life simply started balancing the scales. Every lie they told, every manipulation they justified, every time they used your softness as an advantage, it's all echoing back now, piece by piece. They thought they were untouchable, but they touched what was protected. The pain they're feeling isn't random. It's the energy they interfered with coming back to restore balance. You were covered, not by coincidence, but by divine intention. There's a kind of unseen shield that follows certain souls, and when others violate that boundary, they end up wrestling with forces they can't name. Now their peace is gone, their plans keep collapsing, and their confidence is cracking. Not because you did anything, but because the protection that covered you is now correcting them. They're learning the hard way that some connections are contracts, not coincidences. You were never in their life for entertainment. You were there for elevation. They were given access to something pure and misused it, and life doesn't let that slide. You didn't curse them. You were the blessing they disrespected. And when someone mistreats a divine assignment, the universe doesn't punish. It reclaims what's holy. Number 11, their mind is their new battlefield. Once upon a time, they slept easily after causing pain. They could lie, betray, and manipulate without flinching. They mistook your heartbreak for weakness and your silence for surrender. But peace doesn't follow cruelty forever. It expires. And now the same mind that once plotted and justified their actions has turned into a war zone. The noise they created in others has come home, and this time there's nowhere left to hide. Their mind used to be their escape. Now it's their punishment. Every night when the world goes quiet, the thoughts they pushed away start crawling back. They replay the moments they pretended not to care. The faces of those they hurt visit them in flashes. The excuses that once felt solid start sounding hollow. They can't drown it out anymore because guilt has a memory stronger than pride. It sits heavy on their chest, whispering reminders of what they did and who they became to get there. That's how life works. It hits where arrogance can't defend itself. The consequences don't always show up in public. Sometimes they move into your private thoughts. And that's far worse, because there's no audience to perform for, no one to manipulate, no way to rewrite the story. It's just them and the truth they've been running from. The same silence they once mocked has become the loudest sound in their life. And it's poetic, really. The person who once slept soundly after breaking others now can't find rest, because the mind won't stop replaying what the heart tried to bury. That's the price of intentional harm. It collects interest over time. You didn't have to expose them. Their own conscience is doing the job. Now their mind is the battlefield where the truth fights their denial every single day. They thought they escaped accountability, but accountability found them in the one place they can't run from, inside their own head. And until they make peace with what they destroyed, that war won't stop. Number 12, the apologies they never gave are now coming out as tears. They had 1,000 chances to make things right, but pride always spoke louder than conscience. They knew they hurt you. They knew they crossed lines, but instead of accountability, they chose silence. They thought time would wash it away, that if they ignored the damage long enough, it would disappear. But life doesn't forget. What isn't confessed eventually finds its own way out. And for them, it's coming out as tears they can't explain. Those sleepless nights they're having now. That's the weight of every word they never said, the I'm sorry they swallowed, the empathy they withheld, the closure they denied you. It's all sitting on their chest, demanding to be released. Only now. There's no one left to receive it. You've moved on. You've healed in silence, while they're stuck choking on the same silence they once used as a weapon. That's not karma. That's consequence. Life has a way of wringing humility out of arrogance. It doesn't always do it through punishment. Sometimes it does it through reflection. They're seeing themselves clearly now. The games, the manipulation, the carelessness. And it's unbearable. Every tear that falls is an unspoken apology. Every restless thought is a replay of what could have been if they'd just acted with decency. But the thing about delayed remorse is that it never lands the same. It doesn't heal anyone. It just haunts the one who carries it. They're learning that closure doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. It stays, waiting patiently until the day your peace becomes their pain. That's where they are now, feeling everything they made you feel, only deeper, because now there's no chance to fix it. Their tears are the confessions they refused to make when it mattered. The universe isn't cruel. It's honest. And the truth always finds its way out, even if it has to come through trembling hands and sleepless eyes. Those tears aren't random. They're the words they should have said when they still had your ear and your grace. Number 13. You didn't win out of spite. You won by alignment. They think your glow-up was about them, but it never was. You didn't rebuild your life to prove a point. You rebuilt it because you finally understood your worth. Your comeback wasn't rooted in anger or payback. It was rooted in clarity. You didn't rise because you wanted to show them. You rose because staying low no longer matched your spirit. You outgrew their chaos, and when you stepped into alignment with who you really are, everything they used to take from you lost access. That's the part that eats at them. Not that you moved on, but that you did it with peace. They expected bitterness, drama, and desperate explanations. Instead, you went quiet and started thriving. They can't comprehend how you became untouchable without trying to hurt anyone. That's because they mistake revenge for victory, while you learned that true winning is peace, not proving. You didn't fight for control, you surrendered to purpose, and purpose always wins. What they see as your luck is actually divine alignment. The same life that broke you now bends in your favor because you stopped chasing validation and started listening to your higher self. Your glow isn't revenge, it's restoration, the kind that can't be faked or forced. The universe has a way of rewarding those who choose healing over hate. You became a mirror of grace not because it was easy, but because you stopped letting pain dictate your story. And now, they can't stand it. Not because you're gloating, but because your peace exposes their unrest. Your growth reminds them of every chance they had to do better and didn't. That's what their soul can't digest. That you didn't have to destroy them to win. You just had to stop betraying yourself. Your elevation was never revenge. It was the natural consequence of realignment. When you found your rhythm, everything that was fake fell off. You didn't win because you fought harder. You won because you finally stopped fighting what was meant for you. Number 14. They're realizing too late that you were never their enemy. You were their mirror. They spent so much time trying to compete with you, tear you down, or prove they were better, not realizing you were never in the race. You weren't their rival. You were their reflection. The very traits they mocked or resented in you were the ones they were starving for in themselves. Your confidence reminded them of their insecurity. Your kindness exposed their lack of empathy. Your peace irritated their chaos. You didn't trigger them by doing anything wrong. You triggered them by being everything they pretended to be. That's the thing about mirrors. They don't lie. You didn't show them who you were. You showed them who they weren't. Every time you stood in your authenticity, it challenged their performance. And instead of being inspired to grow, they got defensive. They told themselves you were arrogant, distant, or too much, because it was easier to label you than to face their own reflection. People who aren't ready to heal often attack what exposes their wounds. Now life has stripped away the noise, and for the first time they're seeing the truth clearly. The traits they used to criticize are the ones they secretly admired but couldn't sustain. They realize you weren't trying to outshine them. You were just being real. But in their unhealed state, your authenticity felt like an attack. That's why your peace now feels like punishment, because it's a constant reminder of everything they lost by refusing to grow. You were never against them. You were the lesson that could have freed them. You reflected their potential, their power, their higher self, and instead of rising to meet it, they ran from it. But here's the twist. You didn't have to expose them. Life did. And now, they're standing face to face with the truth they tried to project onto you. They called you their problem, but you were actually their mirror. And facing that reflection is the hardest battle they've ever fought. Conclusion. The story isn't about revenge. It's about truth, alignment, and the undeniable power of walking in your own energy. The people who tried to break you, manipulate you, or mock your journey weren't ready for the depth, the strength, or the peace you carried. Every sleepless night they face, every moment of unrest, every opportunity that slips through their fingers is the natural consequence of mishandling what was sacred. You weren't the enemy. You were the lesson. You were the mirror. You were the energy they could never contain and the grace they could never earn. Your rise wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right. You didn't get even. You got elevated. You didn't fight back. You aligned. You didn't chase karma. You cultivated clarity. Every point we've unpacked, from their mirrored failures to the weight of unspoken apologies, from the collapse of their illusions to the battlefield of their own minds, all of it leads to one undeniable truth. When you honor your energy, live in alignment, and refuse to compromise your peace, life handles the rest. And here's the beauty of it. They might never understand it. They might never acknowledge the power they lost by mishandling what was protected. That's irrelevant. What matters is that you stood firm, healed yourself, and moved forward with a clarity they will never possess. Your peace is your victory. Your evolution is your statement. Your presence now is a silent testament to everything they tried to destroy and couldn't. So hold your energy higher than ever before. Keep walking your path with confidence. And remember, the universe rewards those who honor their own light. You were sent to elevate, not to fight. You were meant to shine, not to prove. And the people who couldn't meet you there, life is taking care of them in ways they'll never forget. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the energy-boosting, truth-revealing content we drop here. Hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your own story or insight, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Your growth and clarity are contagious. Let them feel it too. Stay blessed always.